and by the support of all participants here that we can establish a PhD program in human rights and human development and a regional center for that purpose as well. I'm getting to my final statements. Finally, this conference is a work of many hands. Mine are only two. I would like first to thank Her Majesty Queen Rania for her support and for the patronage of this conference. Special thanks for the HDCA and the Executive Council of the HDCA for jointly organizing this conference and their trust in the University of Jordan. And also, I deeply thank the conference committee and the local conference committee who worked so hard to make this happen. My greatest gratitude go to the University of Jordan for hosting the conference and for all support they gave to this conference. Particularly, I would like to thank the Office of International Relations, the Department of Public Relations, and all people working in the School of International Studies at the University of Jordan. I'm referring to the administrative staff, to Camelia, Lubna, Sumaya, Sana, Mohsen, Hamad, Musa. Without them, this work would not be a success. Special thanks, of course, go to people from the II Office, Office of International Relations of the University, Dr. Ramal Ali, Jihad Afraid, and Shira Mahasnik, and to Kamal Afraid from the Public Relations Department, and Ibrahim Diab and the rest of the group. My special personal thanks go to Ikhlas Suez from the department and the program Human Rights for her dedication, commitment, hard work, and support and patience. Just imagine, she has to put up with me for the last 15 months preparing for this conference. This is not easy. And I would also thank the sponsor of this event, the International Organization for Migration, for their generous support, the QIZ for their generous support as well, the Baghdadi group, the Nobel group, and the Mawardi group, and the rest of the people who I may forgot to mention in this brief. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, all of us, by being here, fulfilling the obligation of bridging the gap between human rights and human development, either by participating in paper or just by being here. And I hope this conference will be a catalyst to push the research agenda in human rights and human development further, and especially for this region. I will come you again to this conference, and I wish you all the success. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Zaid. Before I introduce our next speaker, it is also partly due for the executive committee to thank the IDRC also for their contribution to this conference, especially in the facilitation for some of the students to be able to be here through the scholarships they have given. So thank you goes to the IDRC as well. It is my pleasure to introduce our next speaker, Professor Kaushik Basu, the President of the Human Development and Capabilities Association, who I would like to ask to please come to the podium.
Thank you very much, Rosina. His Excellency, Dr. Badran, Dr. Tok, His Excellency, Professor Twasi, Dr. Yadat. Let me begin by thanking Her Majesty the Queen for her patronage of this conference, which has made this gathering today possible. Extremely kind of her. We know of her concern with the topic and really grateful that she took this initiative. To represent her, she deputized Professor Adnan Badran, a former Prime Minister, welcome here. He has also, quite apart from having been a former Prime Minister, he's been involved in some of these issues. He's chair of the Board of Trustees for the National Center for Human Rights and president of Petra University. I would like to special thanks to the University of Jordan. I'm extremely grateful that the president is here with us today. And I should like to thank very, very specially Dr. Zaid Yadat for his vision, leadership, and I can deviate from the script and add for his warmth and hospitality which I experienced last evening. Thank you very much. There is a team, a huge team actually, that has worked to pull this. I can't say pull this off because we haven't yet pulled this off. That we'll be able to say at the end of the conference, but for putting this together. And then there was several individuals in the local committee, but in addition, I would like to thank Enrica Chiapero Martinetti, who's also the Vice President of the HTCA, Zina Nime, whom I had corresponded quite a bit with and met, and she's been announcing, and several people from HTCA, but I should also mention Eklas Schweiss. And I should mention Sabina Al-Ghaire, who actually, quite apart from the organization related to this, for a long time involvement with the topic and some prodigious amounts of work to get HTCA going. There have been donors, several of them, but I may mention just the IDRC of Canada for support over a long time. Jordan, led by Her Majesty, has played a very important role in matters of human rights and human development. This is all over the place. You don't have to take it from me. You can Google and look at the efforts that have been made in this country. The University of Jordan has taken a lot of initiative in this topic. There is, I'm told, a master's program that is shared with other places in the world, in particular with Italy. Somehow plays a major role in this, Pavia and Padua. They've been engaged with some of the similar issues, and Enrica and Zina, whom I mentioned, they have been involved in this inter-country effort. Let me just mention a few things about the HTCA itself. The Human Development and Capabilities Association tries many things. It straddles the world of activism and practical politics in matters of human rights, human development and capabilities, and the world of intellectual effort, research and academia. I will talk about the latter in my evening presidential address, so let me just mention over here the great need for the two to come together, the world of practical decision makers and the world of ideas. Not for a moment can we leave it to either side to carry out the full agenda, the full important agenda that lies ahead of us. And in carrying this agenda forward, you have to pick and choose. I have only recently joined the government in India, and I'm acutely aware of this, that from an intellectual venture to decision making, you have to pick your battles. There are more important ones, less important ones. Trivial aside, Oscar Wilde, a legend has it that when he was in his last moments in a hotel in Paris dying, forever the believer in aesthetics and beauty looked at the wallpaper and kicked up a huge fuss in the hotel and said that it's an awful wallpaper. Either the wallpaper has to go or I go. And actually a little later Oscar Wilde had gone. He clearly picked his battles wrong. I mean, there are important things in the agenda for which you have to pick and choose and see what you can do, what you can't do, which is a collective effort, and there is suffering involved. I for a long time worked on problems of child labor and child suffering. It's a global phenomenon, greater in some countries, greater in poorer countries. Typically, these are areas where we need a lot of initiative and effort. Before I close, I don't want to take more time over here, let me just thank the past presidents of this, of the HTCA. The first president, who was also my PhD advisor, was Amartya Sen, Professor Amartya Sen, Nobel laureate in economics. After that, it was Martha Nussbaum, and I'm taking over now from Francis Stewart. So it's the fourth presidency. You know, the best thing that can happen to someone taking on the presidency of an organization is if the previous ones were weak figureheads, then you don't have to measure up to that. Unfortunately, I don't have that luxury. These are three very important figures in the world of ideas, and it is upon me now to take this agenda further forward. Just a word or two about the concept of human capability, and I will not take this any further today. Capability and empowerment is more than just giving people basic standards of living. It is a lot to do with choice as well. It is not just giving them the education, but giving them the right and the ability to choose the education. It is enabling them and empowering them. So we have to remember, as we take this agenda further forward, the intellectual and practical agenda, that it is not just delivering to people certain basic things that they know they need, but empowering them. With these words, let me close my morning remarks. I would thank you once again, the people on the dais and the ladies and gentlemen in the audience, distinguished audience. We really look forward to the next 3 days of meeting and conference, and hopefully a longer run interaction with the University of Jordan and Jordan itself. Thank you very much.
Before our next speaker, there is a few words that Dr. Zaid would like to mention again, and we will go on for.
Please excuse me for that, but if anyone tries to be in this place, you will forget something to say. And remember, I have to say no matter what. I have to specially thank the former Dean of the School of International Relations, Professor Natash, for supporting the idea of this conference from the very beginning, and the current Dean of the School of International Relations, Professor Masalha, for his continuing supporting for this conference, and for my dearest friends, Dr. Nasser Dahoud and Dr. Muhammad Khair Mustafa. Thank you.
Our next speaker is the Commissioner General for Human Rights in Jordan, a leading figure in Jordan and the region in his efforts to bring together human rights and human development. I would like to introduce to the podium Dr. Muhyiddin.
Well, I'm not quite sure that I am a leading figure, but I can say that I have a modest contribution. الأستاذ الدكتور عدنان بدران مندوب جلالة الملكة راعية الحفل، أستاذ الدكتور معالي رئيس الجامعة الأردنية الأكرم، Professor Basu, President of HDCA, distinguished guests and participants, ladies and gentlemen. I have been asked to deliver a speech on the main issue of this conference with a regional perspective. By way of introduction, I shall first begin with some general remarks on the concept of development and its relationship with human rights. For decades, the notion of development was conceived narrowly, as you know.